That's a mistake. I seek answers in everything I see, through symbols, signs, and direct experience. I truly believe that God speaks to us everywhere. So when people say, I have been praying, but God isn't answering, maybe He is. You just haven't learned how to see it yet. When I was being attacked, surrounded by confusion and deceit, like a pack of hyenas circling their prey, I began to notice something profound. Real life events in the world were unfolding that mirrored my own experiences. Almost as if God was showing me the truth through them. So, like the tarot reader from Idaho, lying, antagonizing someone she doesn't even know, fully convinced by her own fabrications. Or like Sniper Wolf, who was exposed for projecting her own behavior, accusing someone of copying her when in reality, she was copying an upcoming creator she was in competition with. Or Natalia Grace, who was demonized for years, painted as evil, only for the truth to reveal that she was the one who had been abused. Even in stories and films, like Wicked, where the illusionist attacks Elphaba and brands her as evil simply because she refused to play along with his illusions. In all of these reflections, I saw the same message repeating itself. Truth being twisted, innocence being framed, and illusion trying to reign supreme. And in that recognition, I understood that God was answering me. Just not with words, but with mirrors. So this mystical pattern recognition experience, what many traditions call synchronicity or symbolic mirroring. Carl Jung used synchronicity to describe moments when outer events seem meaningfully connected to inner experience, even though there's no obvious causal link. For a mystic, these patterns feel like God, or the intelligence behind reality, speaking through coincidence. When you notice public stories, movies, or headlines reflecting your private struggle, it can feel as if the universe is giving confirmation. I see you. Here's another mirror of what's happening. So symbolic mirroring. In a mystical framework, the outer world often mirrors our inner or collective dynamics. So the lying tarot reader, the influencer copying others, the misjudged woman vindicated, all carry the same archetypal script. Truth versus illusion, innocence versus projection, and seeing this repeating motifs isn't random. It's a symbolic way that the world reveals patterns of energy already at play around you. Many mystics say God or divine consciousness uses the language of patterns, stories, and symbols to awaken perception. So when someone says, God isn't answering, it may be that the answer is already present in people, events, even art, but requires spiritual sight rather than literal hearing. It's like tuning into that symbolic language. In grounding this experience, it's not about thinking that everything is about you. Of course, there's a discernment with all of this. We only see this as a warning or guidance. It's just how some people learns directly from life itself. Now, in connection with this, let's take a closer look at one of the storytelling tarot readers. Let's call her Goddess Nicole. As we have seen in these karmic circles, there's often a pattern of false accusations in targeted antagonism. But what truly stood out to me was something almost ironic. During one of her readings, I swear I heard her introduction saying, "Keep in mind, I could be lying in this reading." LOL. And honestly, that might have been the only truthful thing she said. The reading was titled Trigger. Goddamn. She needs help. Ward of the state bad. In her story, the supposed villain is portrayed as possessed. Dark High Priestess doing black magic, losing her mind. She paints this person as someone pretending to be enlightened, a wounded healer, but is secretly evil, unintelligent, and manipulative. So she repeats these words again and again. She's dumb, she's not enlightened, she's a whore. Then the accusations escalate, claiming this person sacrifices animals, harms others, is likely more like Jeffrey Dahmer, who grew up poor, is a sociopath, a prostitute, a gold digger, a fraud, and a torturer, pretending to be a victim. So according to her, this villain even sacrifices children and pregnancies, and had multiple miscarriages. Now, if these lies are meant to describe me, this is slander and defamation. And I cannot wait to see this person in court. These are the words of a malicious, vindictive narcissist masquerading as a spiritual guide. Now, if you look at her comment section, someone wrote, "Well, jealousy never wins." And the irony of it all, this one comment said it all with what this tarot reader just did. Because when a reader keeps obsessively repeating that someone is not intelligent, not enlightened, you will know that there's some insecurity there. It reveals exactly what this person is jealous of, which is someone's spiritual awareness and someone's intellect. So yes, if she's trying to paint me as her villain, this is what jealousy looks like in real time. A very ugly, hideous, jealous, gang-stalking tarot reader creating false narratives to destroy what she envies because she's the fraud who craves that intelligence and spirituality she will never possess. Now, I don't believe every single detail in her story is fabricated. These types often use partial truths mixed with lies to confuse their audience. And we all know that in gang stalking, they are scapegoating. So the very energy they describe, the dark karmic they condemn, is the evil that exists within themselves. So if you understand how black magic works, you will recognize this for what it is. Word magic. Energy manipulation through speech. They use words as spells, accusations as curses to project darkness onto others while appearing righteous. Remember that these are the very same people that are already exposed with gang stalking, deceiving, and torturing others behind the scenes. They are the wolves in sheep's clothing, crying wolf whenever their mask begins to slip. Preaching light while spreading darkness. A scammer, a fraud, a nymphomaniac. She was even mentioning about sold my soul, selling my soul, cloud chasing. Well, in her narratives, there's a karmic woman like this. But we all know they are the very evil they claim to expose. And she's the living embodiment of all these characteristics. But I don't know about the nymphomaniac. True enlightenment doesn't dehumanize even prostitutes. True light doesn't slander. True spirituality doesn't need to destroy others to shine, like what she's done here. So when this reader tries to call someone dumb or unworthy, I won't argue. Because the one who needs to say it the loudest usually reveals exactly who she is. And the commenter affirming her, insinuating that someone is jealous, that could never win, well, best example of what dumb is. Well, I'm not really the one to use such words, but probably I'd say the best example of what ignorance looks like. Now, I want to emphasize an information that she added with her defamation. She added that this is a Queen of Wands, who's the karmic, who's allegedly doing black magic to keep a spouse. And that the spouse wanted to go to a Queen of Cups, third party, who's a good leader. And it seems like in her narrative, she's portraying that this man rejected this karmic, who will never go back to this karmic. So what does this little information tells us? It tells us of a third party, Queen of Cups. And it looks like if she mentioned about leadership, it seems like this Queen of Cups wanted not only a man, but also a position. Now, I wanted you all to remember this narrative because narcissists loves to control the narrative for their smear campaigns, for saving their reputation, and to protect their ego, because I certainly am sure that I was the one who broke it off with my spouse. Now, with the title alone, you will understand that her goal is to trigger. It's even the first word, right? LOL. Very dark forces. We don't believe narcissists that purposely trigger and abuse their victims and portrays them as crazy that needed to be institutionalized. I think your group just really needed to give up what you stole. And I'd say, I'll see you in court. Not just because you're a thief, but that was quite a slander. So, goddess. In spirituality mysticism, a goddess is not merely a female deity sitting upon a pedestal. That's just a narcissist. She is a state of embodied divinity, the living realization of female power, intuition, sensuality, and wisdom. She is the sacred force that gives life form and meaning, the breath that turns suffering into strength, and the awareness that merges heaven and earth within the human soul. So let me offer you wisdom. You cannot steal, but can only copy. Because the goddess cannot be fake. She's recognized by the light that she carries in truth, not by pretense. So when people like you, goddess, mock, condemn, or dehumanize women, especially those who have walked the path of the outcast, like prostitutes, what they truly reveal is their disconnection from the sacred feminine. It just means that they have not yet faced their own shadows, their fear of desire, their fear of power, their fear of raw human vulnerability. And because they reject those parts of themselves, they project that rejection outward, turning sacred energy into shame and divine embodiment into insult. But here's the truth. You cannot embody what you despise. Until you honor the divine in what you have been taught to judge, you remain a stranger to your own soul. I was never a prostitute. You're simply a slanderer. But even so, I will never degrade these women, nor look down upon their lives or their choices. It's just the conditioning of our minds that thought that So whether chosen freely or shaped by circumstance, I will never look down on them. Because the goddess sees beyond the surface. She knows that pain, survival, and longing can all be holy when transformed into wisdom. To embody goddess consciousness is to hold the paradox of existence with compassion. To see the divine in what the world calls dirty. To find holiness in what the world rejects. And to love what the world has taught you to despise. We don't need to step on those who are already struggling just to convince the world we're standing taller. You don't prove your divinity by demeaning someone else's humanity. And if you have to humiliate the wounded to feel holy, that's not goddess energy. That's narcissism dressed in sacred robes. The real goddess doesn't need a pedestal. You're just a narcissist.